everybody. I'm Doug from Epic, and I'm really excited to introduce this panel on Hypnopolis, which is a super cool project. We're going to explain it all to you. There's going to be some cool technical details. But before we get going, I kind of wanted to just set the stage and kind of give a little backstory to get everybody started, right? So games and brands coming together, right? It's nothing new. I've got some screenshots over there. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the Cool Spot game, but I found out a fun fact when I was searching for that picture. It is the 30th anniversary of the Cool Spot game this year. So I think that's under-celebrated, to be honest, but because it was actually a good game, which was fun. But you can see that, you know, over the last 30 years, there have definitely been a combination of brands and games coming together, right? So Cool Spot, Pepsi Man over there, Sneak King. Sneak King was like a super surprise hit for Burger King. They're all quite food and snack based, I think, for a long time. But you know, I put Gran Turismo in there because Gran Turismo, PS1, was the first time when people really felt that they might be able to really experience a car in a video game, because that game was about the car in the video game at being accurate and real, right? And I think that was kind of like the wake-up moment that maybe things could be getting more serious in this sort of area. But what's new? Why do we feel there's a step change in the relationship that brands and games, particularly automotive brands and games, can have together right now? And there's a couple of things. We can create more meaningful experiences, so games are more sophisticated. And there's a persistent place that you can go. So you can, you know, as we saw in the trailer, there's an existing audience, there's existing people playing. We can bring those people into the game and have, you know, something that we can offer them that is part of their experience, but then there's other experiences for them to do, right? So, you know, rather than having to go to the store and buy a Super Nintendo cartridge with the Cool Spot game on it, you can come into a game they're already playing, right? And I think that's a huge thing. But, you know, this isn't just an instant marketing experience. You need to bring together game design and marketing to make this work. You know, you can't necessarily do things the way you thought you were doing things before. You are kind of moving into the game development area, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the conclusion some more. And you end up with a situation where if you do it right, you can have shorter cycles, you can iterate faster, but you can really generate some long-term engagement for your brand. And I think there's really a cool opportunity here. So, you know, when you see these engagements, one of the things is the engagements are in context, right? Like the Cool Spot game or the Pepsi Man game, you know, those were very blatant attempts to put a brand directly into a video game. But if you think of like an ad board in something like Rocket League, that's where you would see it in real life in a football match or a race, and it just kind of makes sense. You can kind of get your brand in there. But then you can build the engagement, right? Then maybe you can now start to modify your brand as you would modify a car in Rocket League. The engagement's it's still in context. It's not ridiculous. Rocket League has a fun element, so that's all fine to put a hat on your car. But it's a different type of engagement. It's more meaningful. And then you come to the sort of the Balenciaga stuff that we did in Fortnite, right? Where you're actually, the DNA of the brand is clothing, is going in as clothing within the game, within the avatars, right? And then because they're avatars, you can play with them and do other cool stuff. So this is kind of the evolution. Things are moving along this way. And then, boom, GDC 2023 this year, we dropped something. And that was Unreal Engine for Fortnite. And that opened up the ability to create some amazing, amazing experiences. So I'd like to introduce, or via video, Hypnopolis.
1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 get ready, 4 3 2 let's go, 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 go. On your mark, get ready, say go, 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 go. Run that, jump that, get up and go, 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 go. On your mark, you ready, yeah, go.
So that's a cool trailer. We'll talk to you about the project. But I am by far the least interesting person on stage. So I'd like to introduce Pia and Max from BMW and Andy from Epic to tell you more about what's going on.
Thank you very much, Doug. Great to be here today. My name is Pia, working for BMW, and I'm heading all the topics around metaverse and gaming. And finally, we made it. BMW has come to Fortnite. It was a great effort for us, to be honest. And I often get the question, why you are doing this with BMW, because we are more a traditional automotive brand, but to be honest, we are pretty much into pioneership. So that's why we're always striving for being ahead of everything what we do to really make the brand future-proof. So our goal is to get in contact with new and younger target groups, and this is something what we do in everything what we do. So our main strategy says bring everything together, show virtual worlds in the events and bring the events into the virtual worlds to have like a combined holistic program to really get a future-ready ecosystem, everything what we do. And we decided finally to take gaming and its audience for us to get that step, the parts into the virtual experiences. And I'm pretty proud of it and happy that Max is joining me today on the stage. So maybe you can give us some insights into the strategy you recommended to us and also what kind of target groups we need to consider if we want to go the step into the future.
Thanks. Can I get the clicker?
Sure.
Okay, so a short disclaimer. While I've been working in agencies that worked for BMW for about 20 years, I'm not actually working at BMW.
Oh, sorry.
You know, waiting for that offer still. I'm Max. I'm Chief Innovation Officer of Jung von Matt. We're an independent creative agency. And we've been working closely together with BMW over the years. And I really like to focus today in this talk that this is kind of a big learning journey, but also really the belief and the invest in a concrete ecosystem to serve a community. And yeah, we had the great opportunity to come up with like a basis strategy to help you, and maybe you can also look into how you did sell this idea to the board in these, we all know, economically challenging times, but you're still investing a lot in this virtual space. And we really kind of brought it down in a proper strategy, let's say a 3-layer strategy. We said, first of all, to actually fulfill that desire, right, to be a thought leader in the field, we need to start where the audience is at. So when the metaverse hype evolved, obviously all the clients wanted to get into the space, but the same questions evolved like 20 years ago in the web space, when the question was, where do the users come from, how do we make them stay, and how can they return? So we actually, together with BMW, identified that yes, we want to provide services and value, so to say, to actual car customers, but we also want to address the next let's say, audience, the target audience that is already spending hours and hours in real open world games, right? So the first step was we want to conquer Gen Z where they already are and really kind of make them a branded offer that they really value and not feel just, you know, like smashed in their face. And then say, okay, let's excite them with further interest in that space, maybe on an owned virtual space. We're going to see that later on, and then hopefully by that turning them into customers. And actually we built on that to saying, okay, we want to invest in that space where the audience is at, and with I think 230 million monthly active users currently, Fortnite was the place to go. And actually just as a creative, again joining this Unreal conference for the second time for me, it's exciting to feel that creative energy and also feel your, let's say, refocus on really creators and creativity in the space. And so this was kind of the place to go. And it was not just kind of a trendy thing or a tech thing, but we really kind of digged in and found the data. We're using a lot of real survey data, for example, Global Web Index for our data strategies. And we identified a target cluster that consisted of tech-interested, so to say, the early adopters, right, the leaders that hopefully talk about their findings in that space, but also kind of a metaverse-savvy Gen Z, as we called them, interested in music and gaming. And obviously car enthusiasts, yes, they still exist. And actually we see also younger audiences getting back to being interested in cars again, right? Maybe through cool games like Rocket League. And then the cool kind of, let's say, cross factor there is that we found, or we identified that gaming is such a big denominator in that target audience that we clustered them into, let's say, the more explorer savvy, the competitive, and the socializers in that space. So we kind of found, okay, what are the drivers that these gaming audiences expect in such a space, right? Rather than just a beautiful product. And now the cool thing is, I don't want to go too deep into that, but yeah, they're all tech interested, but we saw, hey, a lot of them, when they ask, they're really interested in new trends like the metaverse. Nobody really knows what it is right now, but they want to, and they're interested in it, and they're obviously tech interested. But the cool thing is it really matches with a big interest in cars and automotive. So I think these were really like the hard data set, so to say, to convince a management board to really invest in that space and not just invest in a one-off because it's so fancy right now, but really to kind of build a roadmap to the future. And this is actually what I want to show you kind of the way it took, so to say, or the legacy that BMW took to actually now end up at the space where we are, or let's say pause at the space, because I'm hoping for more to come in the future. So how we got this far, I think you can talk a bit about gaming. You invested very early on in a gaming audience, right?
Yeah, we got feet wet in BMW eSports like 3 years ago, and that was a great step for us because it was not that easy to really convince the company that this is the way to go. And I'm pretty proud of that because we get 6 of the most important esports teams under contract, and we had a great slogan called Heroes of Rivalry and United in Rivalry, because we brought together what needs to be together. They are gaming together, but they are competitors anyway, and that was a great success for us because we learned from the audience, because we wanted to know how to embrace that scene, how to get in contact with those people, what do they want from us, so how can we really deliver the approach, what these people expect from our side. And it was a great learning journey for us to really get a better understanding how to communicate with gamers. What do we need to deliver? What is the advantage of using this to bring our brand forward? And we used that also to bring the idea of esports into our technical stuff. That's when we build up and develop the Rival Rig. This was a gaming chair we developed with our design works and IT colleagues, and it's the very first gaming chair made of the substance of a car chair, where you have the seats, the classic seats, what you have in a car, and we put in a lot of technique in there, and this was a big jump forward. And what was also great that we approach the idea of having the Rival Works, which is like a company in a company, which is the basis to invent innovations for BMW in context of gaming. And furthermore, and that was like the icing on the cake, we had our famous BMW eSports booth. We brought everybody together in one room at the BMW World at Munich, and we had like a B2B conference and talking all these fancy ideas we had. We did some complaining about what about God, I'm missing the word, I'm very sorry. What about all these shooting games? So that was the timing we decided to go into shooters. Now we are into Fortnite, and this was something what is very special for BMW, because you know from the tradition here it's not that easy way to go. And finally, we had our first contact with Epic when we jumped into Rocket League with our M240 car 2 years ago. So that was the first time we had a product in a game. And finally, now we're here launching our Fortnite Hypnopolis. And there was another thing we brought into, and it would be great, Max, if you can say some words on that, because you come over to us and had the idea that there might be like a cross communication we can do, and this is what we did with Kicks Meta.
Yeah, so we love Fortnite, and actually one of our agencies called JVM Nerd, they match into like gamedom and game fandom and licensing and stuff. They have this client, it's called Kicks Meta, and they're basically an e-commerce shop for sneakers and sportswear, where you can get, let's say, coupons when you're buying NFTs, right? So they kind of match these two fields, and they're actually building what someone called Web3 last year. I don't know whether you remember that name. And they came up with this idea of a multi-brand experience in Fortnite. So it's actually a game where you have to transfer into a basketball. So you're not playing basketball, but you become the ball. You can play in an arena. And this arena is maybe, say sponsored by multiple brands. So Kellogg's chipped in, Puma, and you're revealing one of your cars in there, which is also probably maybe for the developer community or for the service agencies here, an interesting kind of field of how to approach such a touch point if budgets are shrinking, right? So you can just like, let's say, generate more buzz and more invest for multiple brands, and we're so happy that you're actually into this and no one's kind of, elbowing the other one out. It's really funny. You can gain kind of experience stuff, you can collect stuff, and then again, turn them into real coupons for the e-commerce store. So
let me add something here. When you go into the Kicks metaverse, you will see that there will be a launch date October 11th. Just to let you know, what you can see here, we are doing a pre-start of communication with the iX2. So the game you can play right now, it's more like a camouflaged car, and the true car will be revealed by October 11th. Just to let you know, when you go into the world right now, it will change in 10 days, and this will be also the reveal of the car in the Kicks metaverse.
It's true. So this is all kind of a camouflage car that we're seeing right
Yeah.
now. And then further on with the legacy, it's not so much connected to gaming, but I had to put it in there because we're so proud of it. Because a few years ago, you approached us for like an audio strategy, and we should make a podcast. But we came up with the idea not have a regular like industry podcast of two crypto guys talking, but rather telling a story, a science fiction thriller story in a city in the future. So 50 years from now, what would be the technology in the future? And in that storyline of the thriller, you could experience potential BMW technologies in the future. And we called that Hypnopolis. So the actual name of this Fortnite map now refers to that world. And I'm just so happy because I love, stringency and if stuff comes together. I don't know whether the audience sees that, but it's another little dot on the legacy. And yeah, I think what we meant with the second stage, if we kind of approach these audiences in those gaming worlds, you also very early invested and asked us to come up with an actual owned virtual space. We called that Metaverse back then. And together with a wonderful partner of Journey, they had a talk yesterday, and they also have a New York office, so you should talk to them. They're building Unreal stuff in Unreal. They built the first kind of pixel streaming experience, browser-based, smartphone, mobile-based, with really zero latency. It was just unimaginably. And the idea was back then, the challenge was there was a big motor show in Munich, and it was during COVID, and you were afraid that maybe nobody could show up. So we showed the potential of having actually like a virtual layer on top of your event. You had a CEO speaking in there. You revealed the car. It was the first car reveal in the metaverse. And building in that space, and that's kind of the second story that I would like to emphasize today, is really about this learning journey. So with every iteration, we built something that we wanted to learn about. So for the next car launch, we actually introduced Ready Player Me and some virtual goods that you collected, right? So there was a little gamification in that space where the car was revealed, and you could collect little coins, and at the end get a virtual, I think it was a hoodie.
It was a hoodie.
Right?
And the story about the hoodie is a nice one. I want to tell you about that because I had some panels afterwards. And when you go into a metaverse and you choose your hoodie, people always like to stay as they are. And afterwards, they got into other metaverses, still wearing that BMW hoodie. And one said to me, that was weird because I stepped into that metaverse and thought, okay, I'm doing advertising, I'm still wearing this BMW hoodie. And then he jumped around a bit and he met a lot of people still wearing that hoodie, and they start speaking to each other. Oh, did you meet that? Did you see that car? Cool. And it was like organic reach. It just happened. So this is something what I really, really great like on that, because we have that kind of interoperability already in the avatar system, and this is something what we truly emphasize, what we needed for the future to bring all these worlds together.
It's also maybe our wish for you guys, because we think the conversion could be, like the UX of the conversion inside and outside of this world could be enhanced a bit in order for us to really kind of build a concrete value chain, right? So if you can take something out of that world and actually that represents value in a different space, I think we can really now look into something as a decentralized metaverse. I know we, rarely using that term anymore, but nobody wants to have a monopoly space of one, provider where everyone is locked in. But rather, I really would like to welcome, or much more would welcome, a space that is decentralized, but still has some, like you said, interoperability, and you can transfer goods from one place to another. So if I would have one wish, that we're so excited about your software and everything, that would be it.
I like 100% agree. It came up on yesterday's panel, right? I think like that persistence of avatar, persistence of self across metaverses breaks down the bubbles, right? We're all in these crystal bubbles, right? And you go into one and you're fully enclosed. I think, taking something, I think that is a super good idea. And let's talk more after.
We have to. In an ideal world, you can build up your virtual car in the BMW metaverse and take it into Rocket League to drive it around. And anyway, metaverse is born in gaming, so I'm pretty sure we are getting to it, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, speaking of gaming, this was the last iteration for the CES, right? You connected it to events, more or less launching cars, for example, concept cars that a normal audience could not touch or view, only journalists. And this was actually for us the first time when we as an agency understood that it's really about game development and then that we're lacking the skill. So we actually invited the game development studio and had them help us on the mechanics, general, like, you know, there was a little gamification in there. There was like this hook thing that you could pull yourself from platform to platform. And this was really eye-opening to us. You know, since we're building web spaces and apps for years and years, this is really like a total new ground to experience. It's more a mixture of architecture, like brand architecture and gaming. And yeah, you're not only building virtual worlds, right?
We are also bringing virtual worlds into our products, and credits to a colleague of mine, to be honest, but we really delivered this gaming experience into that car, and we had that really great use case where you step into a car, you're wearing VR glasses, but you can see yourself, you can drive the car, but you see another world, as you can see in the video. So it's like really driving the game yourself. So this is a really, really great opportunity we have, what we will develop further, and hopefully to have more gaming inside there. This is also something we are working with Epic on, because everything we do is Unreal Engine based. And yeah, hopefully there might be an opportunity for you to really test that case, because it's really awesome.
So yeah, basically what we're saying is, you know, it has to connect to the audience. You have to know what you're doing and what you really want from us, and then also kind of invest heavy and sustainably. So this is kind of the first glimpse of the ecosystem that BMW kind of established in that space, and what really built credibility over the years, and at the same time made that learning journey very steep. Yeah. And then also just a little advertising for us. Why is it working from our side? We also had to kind of learn and understand and build kind of a new culture, so to say. So one of the agencies in our group is called JVM Sports, and they're actually in sponsorship and sports marketing, but they also very early on built an esports team. And why this kind of felt credible to the audience from our perspective is because they consist of gamers themselves. So at some point when we did the social media channels for the esports engagements, the social media team didn't write the tweets, just some developers wrote the tweets who was really invested in that game, and they knew the lingo and the jokes, and I struggled as a creative. I didn't even understand the jokes, to be honest, because it's such a different kind of world and culture, and really to dig into that, just hire the people that are really in love with that and that are kind of connected to the product, and not some management or strategists too high up in the ranks.
I always, say to my bosses, if you do not like it, we're doing it the right way, because we're doing it for you, we do it for our kids. So this is why we do that and how we do that, and always listen to the gamers, listen to the kids, and that's the way we have to do it.
Yeah, and also kind of, you know, the little jokes in there. There's like, you know, pretzels, air fresheners, there's the cupcakes that people experience on the other side. This was all just real Fortnite actual players in our team, knowing which joke would be funny and which wouldn't. And then also building mini games that are maybe contrary to the usual Fortnite experience, because when you're playing Fortnite and you're going into creative, you want to have something, you know, like a leisure time, like something different. Same with the kind of ball game. We were not so much investing in building just another world, because, you know, Fortnite gamers love the main and they love to play in that islands, but really give them, you know, some time to kick back and just have fun and enjoy. And yeah, the other story obviously is a story of partnership, I would say.
Yeah, I would say, how did that happen? What we already made right now. So Epic came to us and said, we have an idea. We can do the very first car creator ever in Fortnite. And we said, pretty cool, because we are pioneers. We want to do the first ever car creator in Fortnite. So we took over this idea and talked to our agency, Jung von Matt, to create a great concept. And yeah, we made it. So you get in contact with Super Awesome as well as Alpha Flare, all these technical companies bringing this baby to life. And today we are here launching Fortnite Hypnopolis, and think we are all pretty proud of that. And the only thing what I can say is go into that island, game on, and let us know how it feels. And how the technique worked behind will now be told by Andy. Thank you so much. And
thank you. Yeah, let's get nerdy, I would say. That's what we're all here for, I guess. Yeah, just to mention a few things. we are talking about enterprise data in UEFN here. There are a lot of talks at UEFest around getting your stuff into UEFN, project optimization, stuff like that. So that's kind of the fundamentals, the basis for what we achieved here. And I'm talking about the enterprise data and the specialties they demanded from us. I'm a project manager by heart, so I use this triangle. Usually you have time, quality, and budget there. So I exchanged it with project size. So for the island, you have the 400 megabytes cooked data size to download, and you have the memory limitations and, of course, the performance you want to achieve on each and every target platform. So these are the three constraints we have, and if we get it right, then we have at least a smooth experience, and also we should have a good visual quality. To give you all an impression what is enterprise data about, I summed it up a little bit. Who of the audience already dealt with automotive data and CAD data and enterprise data? Not that much. Okay, so good slide. Yeah, what is enterprise data? Yeah, usually automotives, but also other manufacturing companies have their own process to create digital twins or virtual twins of the physical product. They use CAD data to do that. CAD data means it's very, very heavy data because it's a mathematical representation of your surface. It's called NURBS. NURBS stands for non-uniform rational B-spline. So sounds pretty complex, and it is. You have a deep construction hierarchy in all of these data sets. You have many draw calls. For example, you have stitches in there. You have high polygonal objects like the speakers in the car. So these are all stuff that is going to be used in car configurators or offline rendering or web specials. So something that you can usually see in dealerships and so on. And that's the main purpose of these virtual twins at the moment. And of course, as I said, you have a high poly count for almost everything. So long story short, you have a far from optimal basis to create a UEFN experience. You can see that how this looks like after an input into UEFN, and how did we get it down to 400 megabytes cooked data size. This was quite a challenge. Let's start with the geometry. So we deleted everything out that wasn't really necessary for the game. So rivets, bolts, all the undercar objects. We even deleted the wheel houses and created just black cubes in there so that it's kind of closed and covered. We used the modeling tools to reduce, clean, and simplify the geometry. You may ask why we are not using the triangle percentage in Nanite. Well, the geometry tools gives us a lot more control. So we were able to, for example, use different simplifying methods. We could use either percentage or triangle count. We could have geometry constraints, so we could preserve certain aspects of the shape in the geometry, which was quite cool. That's an option we don't have if we just pure reduce it in the Nanite settings. And in the end, we were able to reduce the whole car by 88%. And as you can see in this slide, on the left side, we have the imported model with exterior just 6 million triangles. On the other side, 160K triangles. And looking at the turntable, you don't notice a difference. So the algorithm there did a pretty good job.
By the way, that's not the actual car model, right?
No, of course not. As we already learned, the car will be revealed at October 11th, so we took another BMW, obviously, and reapplied these techniques, but it shows how we achieved it. Another big topic is textures and shaders. And we have, in the virtual twins, usually scanned materials. So you have a scanned material for each and every surface in the car, very, very high resolutions of 4K and more. You have that for all different data channels. So you have a 4K texture for diffuse, for roughness, for normal, and ambient occlusion, and so on. And this adds up to an immense amount of memory usage and also project size. So this way, we reduced everything to 1K or even half K texture resolution. We used a lot of procedural textures. I'm going to show that later on. We also baked down partially textures to our MPEG textures. That's the funny colored thing you see there. So it's basically you have a diffuse channel, you have a roughness channel, and a specular channel, and you bake it into one picture. And depending on which color information you pick out of the texture, it gets applied into the shader. We also reduced the HDRI cube maps, and we try to limit the usage of unique textures. So we try to reuse as much textures as possible. Talking about memory limitations, we have these 100,000 memory units in the spatial thermometer in UEFN, and we try to squeeze everything in. And especially with the virtual twin as a basis, it's quite difficult to achieve. So we made up our minds and created a very simple shader and a very simple texture. You may ask, what are these weird colors in this texture for? And basically, we used that to assign one shader to multiple objects that in reality have different colors, and then used the UV space to assign the right color to the right objects. This way, we could even further reduce the draw call and the shader usage, and of course also textures. So for example, we used it for all the rubber parts, all the plastic parts, partially even in the headlights. We used it for all the icons in the interior. You have white icons, green icons, red icons, and I think even for the stitches. So it saved us a lot of memory in there. We also used the memory calculation to get an idea which asset needs to be reduced, which asset is taking the most out of our memory budget. And as you can see here, we have almost 300,000 units in the memory usage. And that was just after I imported the exterior into an empty scene. So that was quite a lot. And after the poly reduction, we went down to, I think, 16,000 units. So we have a lot of space now left to do the rest of the car and also the environment. Speaking of the environment, when you have enterprise data in UEFN, you come to a limit when it comes down to reduction. You don't want to lose too much quality, as you usually, the car is your hero. So you need to save elsewhere, and that's how we used instances a lot. We had tires, the solar panels, and all kind of props placed in there. And we later replaced them with hierarchical instance static meshes. That allows you to optimize the performance by grouping similar instances together and render them in a single batch. And that was achieved via a Python script in Unreal Engine. And it was a bit hacky, but in the end, we could batch replace a lot of props, and it's only working with custom static meshes. So if you create a world just out of Fortnite assets, it's not working, and it's not helping you to reduce the memory. So we have, before we did that, we had a memory usage of 150,000 units, and after that we were almost at the target limit of 100,000 units. So that script did a really good job helping us to get into the memory limitations. Last step, of course, performance. And performance is not only having the performance in the editor or on your PC. You always have to look also on your other target platforms, like the handhelds, like the gaming consoles, and so on, and lower powered hardware, PCs as well. So we created LODs, but we needed to be careful, because if you create a certain amount of LODs, then you end up eating more memory than you gain performance in the end. So we found out that a good trade-off, at least in the automotive use case, is to have just 3 LODs, one LED 0 for 100% quality, LED 1 with 50% of the triangles, and LED 2 for 10% of the triangles. And you can also define LODs per target platform via the engine scalability levels, but we didn't do that because the performance was already quite good on the handheld consoles. And what we also did to further optimize the performance was reducing the draw call. After import just the exterior, we had a draw call of almost 18,000 actors in the scene. We deleted the construction hierarchy, we combined a lot, as I mentioned previously, and in the end we were down to 60 draw calls, which is an intense reduction in terms of geometry and materials. And to give you an idea, we have a picture here out of the Unreal Engine editor for Fortnite, and it just shows you how much we combined it just for the car paint parts. Car paint is always a little bit special because of the material. That's why we just combine car paint parts. So you have the hood, you have the fenders, you have the single frame, and everything that could be combined is not moving, has the same material, was combined. And then we added also the doors, for example. We have them in there one time, and the other time it is instanced because we just use a transform, and so we could minimize also the footprint and gain more performance. Yeah, I talked about visual quality, and a couple of these things will also be mentioned by my colleagues for the other UEFN talks. But just to give you also a wrap up and an idea, we used a couple of lights, but not all of them are really casting shadows. So you can use the lights to set your scene, but really use casting shadow only if it's really necessary, if it's making a huge difference in your visual representation. You should keep your light radiuses small, and you really should avoid overlaps, because overlaps are really adding calculation time. And of course, we just use stationary lights, because movable lights, dynamic lights will also cost a lot of performance. This is a good example here. I think we had 30 lights in total in there in the scene, and in the end, only 5 of them had shadow casting on. Other topic is shadow casting for foliage. We added an ambient occlusion pass to the shader so that it gives us a little bit more depth on the object itself, and also gives a little bit of depth on the surrounding surfaces without having a proper shadow casting. You barely see a difference on the picture, but believe me, if you see a scene with and without these additional tweaks, you really see a difference, and it kind of destroys a little bit of your impression. And last but not least, and that's almost coming to the lessons learned, one important thing is testing the experience on your target platform. And while we did that, we also learned that Unreal Editor for Fortnite cannot replicate each and every hardware combination. So, for example, if you switch to mobile renderer on Android, it looks like this. So you don't know, okay, why is it not working? The texture sampling is too high, but on the target device it is working. So we cannot really replicate each and every hardware combination in the editor. So in the end, we ended up with still using shader model 6, but we set GI to low and the reflection to minimum to kind of mimic the hardware on the handheld console. And but the downside on it, you still have nanite activated, which is kind of a trade-off. But what I'm trying to say in the end is test on all your target platforms regularly, do play tests with multiple platforms, with multiple players on a regular basis. And yeah, with that, I'm handing over to you, Doug.
Right. Timer says we got 9 minutes left. I'm going to wrap up. Hopefully we can get a question or two in. So just a couple of learnings that we're going to kind of finish off with. They all kind of fall into the same theme, you might guess. And the answer is all around the fact that you are moving into a game design space. I want to echo what Max said. You want to get people that understand this area, even if it seems like a marketing activation. The gameplay has to be compelling, and you have to use the same methods that a game developer would, right? So game design is iterative. You want to keep trying new things, seeing what's fun, working over and over and over again. The more iterations you get in, the better experience you will have. And I think, because of the nature of UEFN, because of the way you can deploy, you can really get a lot of those iterations in and get some play testing and make sure it really is something that's compelling. And Hypnopolis is fun. Like at its heart, we can talk about all the lovely visual representations. If it's not fun, no one's going to play it, and it's fun. And that's because it was treated like a game. It was iterated upon. And that, you have to run feedback. Shout out to Game Dev Story if you. This is a throwback. It's a 2010 game, but like it always stuck with me that you've finally come around when the thing you do for a living is represented by a cute sim game. But when you go and look at it, like you have to behave like you're a game developer. You have to run the same feedback and iteration loops. You want to have lots of playtesters that you can inside of your group, inside of your organizations. You have a bunch of different organizations in these kind of projects involved. People from different organizations should be playing it. You should really get as much feedback as possible. But the feedback you need is from your target audience, right? You need to listen to the gamers, nerds, and kids and really understand what they feel about your experience. Because, echoing what Pia said, if we're giving our feedback on it or your management's giving their feedback on it, it's not going to be the right feedback, right? And these are the people you need to listen to. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.